Hello, and thank you for joining me. My favorite chef is Jacques Pépin, and this is his recipe for roast chicken with cognac sauce, a dish he shares from his time from working at the famous restaurant Le Pavillon in New York City in the 50s. Daniel Boulud actually recently opened a restaurant by the same name, inspired by the historic Le Pavillon Jacques worked at, but they currently don't have chicken with cognac sauce on the menu. Anyway, enough backstory. While this dish sounds fancy, it is ultimately pretty simple at its core. We roast a chicken in a simple way, we make a sauce while it cooks, and that is that. Before we get to working on our chicken though, let's talk about how to make a nice chicken stock really quick. For if we wish to make a really beautiful sauce, we must use beautiful components. Whenever I use chicken at home, I always get it with the bones in, and most of the time, it's a whole chicken. Anyways, I save up those bones by wrapping them up in plastic wrap and putting them in the freezer. Then once I have about 3 chickens worth of bones, I make a stock. Today I have quite the collection of bones, so I'm going to make 2 pots of stock, but even 1 batch would be plenty for our recipe. I put the bones in a large pot. I cover them with water. I bring that pot up to a simmer. As the water comes to a simmer, you will see foamy impurities and a little bit of fat rise to the surface. We just want to go in with a spoon and skim anything that isn't just chicken bones from the surface. You will only really have to worry about skimming in the first part of the process. Once you've skimmed a few times, you will notice that the pot is more or less clear. I like to let the pot simmer for about 2 hours until the volume has reduced a bit and the color has turned a bit golden. Then I go in with my aromatics. I have the green scraps from a couple of leeks, a couple small carrots sliced up, an onion which I've peeled and quartered, and for herbs, I've got a nice bit of thyme, but some herbe de Provence would also be nice. And then a couple bay leaves, some peppercorns, and a few cloves. And because we are going to be making a Jacques Pépin recipe, I like to add about a tablespoon of soy sauce as well, something that he does in his chicken stock recipe. Now we just let that go for another hour and a half or so. Once the color has deepened even more, and the vegetables look like they have given up their essence, we are probably there, but make sure you taste it first. Bear in mind we didn't add much salt, so it won't taste like chicken soup, but it should have a nice richness on the palate. If it just tastes like water, maybe consider letting it reduce down a little more. Once you are there, we kill the heat and gently strain the chicken stock from the bones and vegetables. I can tell from the smell and the color that we've got a very nice chicken stock here. And as I said, this is more than we need for today, so now we have a lot of this beautiful stock left over to make a soup or some other nice sauce. It will also keep in the freezer for a long time. Back to the bird. I have here a chicken, which is about 3.5 pounds, or 1.5 kilos. The first thing I want to do is remove the wishbone, that triangular-shaped bone that sits at the top of the breast where the neck was attached. I just pull the skin of the breast back a little bit, feel around to find where that bone is running, and then make 2 little cuts with a small knife. Work my fingers in there and pinching, I pull the wishbone loose. Sometimes it will break and you have to go back for the other half, but today I got lucky. With the wishbone removed, I just want to cut the wing tips off the bird. Just find the joint and cut right through it. Now I just salt the bird all over, making sure some gets into the cavity as well, and I also grind some pepper on it. Next, I take about a tablespoon of soft butter and rub the bird all over. If you are not used to handling chicken this much, don't be nervous. Just make sure your hands are nice and clean before, and make sure you clean them well afterwards as well. Now we truss the chicken, or tie it up in butcher's twine. I have here butcher's twine, a sort of cotton kitchen string, maybe about 2 feet worth. I always give myself a little extra because you can always trim the excess off at the end. With the legs pointed towards me and the twine in my hands, I bring the midpoint of the twine under where the chicken legs meet. I then bring the twine up and cross it over, and then loop each end of the twine around each leg, making a sort of figure 8. Now I turn the bird on its side and run the twine down each side of the chicken. The 2 ends of twine now meet near the neck of the bird, and now I intertwine the ends a couple times to give myself an anchor. I pull it snug, but not too tight. Check to see that the shape is how you like it, nice and compact. And then you just seal the deal with a simple knot, and then cut away any excess twine. If you've never trussed a chicken before, this might all seem a bit fussy, but it really helps with keeping an even cook on the bird, and it's really easy once you've done it a couple times, so give it a shot. Now for cooking. Have your oven ready at 425 degrees Fahrenheit or 220 degrees Celsius. Get a sturdy oven-proof sauté pan over medium-high heat. If you have a stainless steel pan, use it, but I only have a cast iron pan for that size, so that's what I'm using. Once the pan is nice and hot, we place the bird on its side in the pan, and we let that cook for a couple of minutes just to develop a little color. Now I place that pan with the bird on its side in the oven and we roast for 20 minutes. While the chicken cooks, let's start to work on our sauce. I have here 2 cups of our homemade chicken stock. I have 3/4 cup of white wine. And we just need to do a little knife work. I need about 1/2 cup of roughly diced onion. And also about 1/2 teaspoon of black peppercorns. With all that in a pot, I get that on the stove, bring it to a boil, and I reduce it by 1/2. Let's get back to the chicken for a moment. After 20 minutes, I take the bird out of the oven and flip it, so it's now roasting on the other side. I have restaurant hands, so I just grab it, but feel free to use some tongs and a fork so you don't burn yourself. Now that it's on the other side, the bird goes back into the oven for another 20 minutes. Back to the sauce. I have here 1 tablespoon of softened butter and 1 tablespoon of all-purpose flour. We work that into a paste with a small whisk and then collect it all at the end of that whisk. Now we whisk that into our simmering sauce, keeping it moving for a couple minutes to make sure all of it dissolves nice and evenly. Once that is nicely incorporated, we add about 1/2 cup of heavy cream, and now we reduce it just a little bit more until it is nice and thick. Think sort of like the consistency of melted ice cream. Then we strain that sauce through a sieve, taste it, and adjust for salt and add white pepper if you think it needs it. And this just wouldn't be Cognac chicken without some cognac, would it? So pull out the good stuff, and we go in with 2 generous tablespoons of that. Now just keep that warm while we finish up the recipe. After the second 20-minute round in the oven, we pull our chicken out. This time we place it on its back before putting it in the oven for the final 20 minutes. After the final 20 minutes, we remove that chicken from the oven. Looks pretty great. Now, given the weight of this bird, the temperature of the oven, and the amount of time we roasted, I'm certain that this bird is fully cooked. But if you have any doubt, use a thermometer. The meat should reach an internal temperature of 160 degrees Fahrenheit or 71 degrees Celsius. Now we take our roasted chicken and place it on a wire rack set over a pan to rest while we make our concentrated chicken glaze. See all those good bits there in the bottom of the pan? Pour a little splash of water into the pan you roasted the chicken in and scrape out everything into a small bowl. all the bits and juices that accumulated. Now, using a spoon, we just want to skim off the fat from the top of this liquid, leaving behind only the roasting juices. Now, we put that essence in a pot. And although it is already concentrated, we want to reduce that down to almost nothing, basically a thick chicken syrup. Cover and keep that somewhere warm. We now have all the components for our lavish meal. If the cream sauce has gone cool, just reheat it right before we carve the bird. And if you have some extra cognac and you want a little drama at the table before carving, you can light a small bit and pour it over the chicken. Everyone loves a little bit of pyrotechnics. Carve that chicken for your guests however you like. Because we removed the wishbone, see how we can carve nice slices off from the breast without anything in our way? Also, my favorite piece on a chicken is the thigh, but for visual purposes I'm going to serve a whole breast here. Let's keep our plating very simple. I just place that chicken down and fan it out slightly. Then maybe some braised endive would be nice with this. I think so. Now we have our rich cognac sauce, and we generously spoon that on. And now the concentrated chicken glaze. We just do a few droplets here and there. It might not seem like much, but there is so much flavor there that it really cuts through the creamy sauce and brings these little notes of roasted flavor. The balance of the two is really, really lovely. And just because this looks so good, here's a little more footage for fun. This is certainly an old school dish, but I love an old school dish, especially on a special occasion. Thank you for joining me today, and thank you to Jacques Pépin for brightening the world with all your culinary knowledge. Check out some of his videos and recipes. He is truly a living legend. If you enjoyed watching me prepare this chicken, click that like button and leave a comment if you have any questions or just want to say hey. And the more people I can cook for, the better. So subscribe if you like what you see. We are trying hard to make great quality videos, so stay tuned. And until next time, cheers.